Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have the co-founder and CEO of HomeWayz, a workflow automation software that saves agents time in their workday so that they can have more time to build relationships and serve their clients. So if you want to automate the desk work in your real estate business so you can do the more important face-to-face work, then listen up and get excited to get to know Thomas Gabriele. Thanks, Thomas.
Hi.
For being on the show.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to do a deep dive into HomeWayz, but let's start at the surface level. What is it?
So HomeWayz really starts with that founding principle that we believe agents are valuable and that they should be treated and respected as a trusted advisor like any other professional service provider, investment banker, accountant, attorney. These are people who are helping you make those important lifetime decisions of buying a very expensive asset. And we feel that from that kind of core, there's a lot of components that aren't being served well in the marketplace. So we've decided to provide tools that help automate and free up time for agents, but also provide unique data elements that are going to enhance what an agent does and really showcase their value. That's what really we decided to go after.
So what are you automating?
So we focused on a lot of the workflow on a frontline agent. A lot of solutions are structured around lead generation and trying to get folks to get into the front end, and that's important. And customer relationship management is important. But we look at once that client gets into discovery, Zillow exists, the cat's out of the bag, people are finding homes. Once you've connected though with a particular agent and they're sending you homes, what happens? I think an agent is sort of not sure how to handle the workflow of getting a consumer and showing those tours, automating that component, making sure their schedule is right, conducting the proper searches for those clients, and walking them through the funnel all the way to a transaction close. And they need to be able to understand that there are tools in there that are going to save them time and effort so they can spend more of that face-to-face time with clients.
Now you talked about helping agents be a trusted advisor.
Yes.
So how do you guys help with that?
So really it starts with one of our kind of key elements, and that's around our feedback. And one of the things that everyone thinks about feedback is it's great to share with the listing agent and the seller so that they know what's really going on with their house. Our approach is actually 180 degrees out of phase with that statement. It's not that it's not valuable, and it is, but it's really critical because a home buyer should understand what's going on in the market. They should understand what's going on in their individual search. And so we leverage their feedback and their data beyond their preliminary search, which is going to show them some great photos. But we all know that when you get into a home, understanding about what you saw and did it really meet your emotional needs, your physical needs, and your physical wants for a home, making sure you get the information and the guidance from a trusted financial advisor who's going to help you make sure you make a good decision is what we start to focus on. And then collecting that data and leveraging it on an aggregate basis starts to share with you what's going on in the marketplace. So now you can not only make a better decision about what you want, but you can understand how much you should think about offering on the particular property that you do like.
Now an agent and a broker, or maybe even a tech company, may be listening to that being like, what are you talking about? Like, there is information for buyers about the market, and agents do that. What are you seeing that they don't see about what's not being done to really make this better?
Yeah, so what I think it's really about collecting that in-market real-time demand. So there's a lot about searches, and I know there's a company called Buyside out of the East Coast, and they do an interesting job of collecting search data and providing it to the listing agent to try and close. Like, hey, I see what people are searching in your neighborhood. We take that one step further. We go into what are people saying about the homes that are in market today. And more importantly, we are going to be collecting data on people who don't buy those homes. So why didn't they buy? That's just as much value as there is to what is to buy, especially as you start to think about the entire life cycle to say to people, I know who's buying, I know what's going. It's more than just looking at the transaction comp and saying those 3 homes sold for X $100 per square foot. That was those homes. That's not your home that's about to go into market, and that's not the home you're considering making an offer on. You want to understand what's going on with the demand for that particular property.
Now, how do you get this information about what people are saying about the reason why they didn't buy the home?
So that's collected by the buying agent and the home buyer themselves. They're going to be collaborating on our platform because this is a home buying management platform in as much as it is an agent workflow solution. This is again about building that relationship and showcasing that value as a trusted advisor. We're giving you the tools to collect data, to provide rich reporting, to make sure that they understand what they're going to do thinking about purchasing.
So is this kind of like, Waze is a collaborative traffic and platform where everyone's going to start collaborating, and once people start doing it, look at all this amazing insight in it. Is this kind of something similar, but for the home buying process?
That's one of the long-term visions we have for this. Is really the network effect that you get. We all know one telephone is not valuable, two becomes infinitely more, and the more scale you get, the more valuable the network and the information becomes, and that's what we're playing on.
So how'd you get into this? Like, why'd you start this?
So my co-founder and I really opined on it from some initial workflow solutions just around scheduling, and started to think about what were some of the challenges that she faced as a frontline real estate agent. And she said, there's just nothing for me to help me out. There's plenty of tools on lead gen, and she's tried a lot of those out. But once she gets into it, she was spending countless hours doing just rote manual desk workflow solutions, trying to schedule a tour, mapping things out on MapQuest, saying, what do I do to optimize my route? And I said, well, some of this stuff can easily be automated. And that was an interesting problem to solve, but that wasn't a business and that wasn't the vision. And the more we kind of conceptualized the idea a couple of years ago, it became, no, we know what the intrinsic value is of an agent. We need to showcase that. There's a gap in this marketplace. And that really got us super passionate about going after this market by starting with those tools, starting with that data collection, and then we're going to just expand this all the way through, because we want this to be valuable for the consumer and the agent. They're the ones that make real estate go.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, who is your ideal clientele? Are you selling to the consumer or the agent?
So the product is directly sold to the agent, either through the broker. We would look to partner with MLS listings as proper, but right now we want to make sure that frontline agents see it and get the value. They're my primary stakeholder in this equation. If they don't get it and they don't use it, then it's not valuable, and I want to make it valuable for them, and we're committed to being, how do we help you guys showcase your value?
How is there a specific type of agent, certain price points, certain region that you think will be more likely to just get this thing, go and pick it up?
It's interesting. We've gotten a lot of inbound feedback from some of the articles that have been written up about us, or just general things about the show, all over the country, various brokers. I will say I had an interesting story. I was speaking to a broker last week, and he focused on that his agents were salespeople, his buyer agents, and they needed to close people on the homes they were seeing, so they didn't see so many homes. And I thought that was really interesting, because I don't see agents that way. My partner definitely doesn't see agents that way. It's, no, the reason she loved being on the buyer side was that there's an emotional connection. Someone did fall in love with the house, but she had to temper that enthusiasm and the emotional connection with, did it meet what you really needed this home for? Did it have enough bedrooms for your family? Did it have the right spaces for your work office, your yard, your pool, etc.? And there's a lot of that intangible information that we need to capture through our notes feature, through our video feature, through our images, to really help you capture and understand what you're looking at.
So tell me more about how the technology works.
So some of the components around the automation are proprietary, and we have intellectual property and patents that we're exploring on those components that automate it. The feedback components, we're also looking on that as well. But effectively, what we're doing is we're face-to-face, we're talking to people, and we're capturing that, and we're digitizing that, capture that data, and then leveraging the tools that are out there to make a good understanding about what the demand is on that property.
Is there like a critical mass number that you've thought about where it's like, we'll start to get really good value and insights to be able to help the agent and the buyer once we have this much activity happening?
We can seed it with some initial information at a higher geofence to level off to understand what's happening at the neighborhood level. Less valuable at the city level as we granularly get down to a particular property. Obviously, critical mass at 100% is much better. I don't know what the magical inflection point is. The purpose is, let's start with those workflow tools like the automated scheduler, just as a management tool for you. It's valuable initially right off the start if you and your home buyer are working together, searching for homes and keeping some notes, just so you make a better decision about what you want. As we capture that data and as you provide that feedback, then we'll be able to reveal, what does the market think of the home? And as that's kind of the carrot to go ahead and get you to provide the feedback, is, do you want to start seeing what the market thinks of the home? And again, we can leverage the existing data sets that are out there that are public information, or leverage to the agent, so that they can kind of get a sense, but it'll get refined and sharper and better as we collect more data.
How are you guys getting your customers right now?
So right now, it is literally myself and my partner reaching out. We've got obviously valuable call lists that we can identify through who are the large brokerages, who are the folks that are out there, networking at a lot of events, and just getting out there and focusing on talking to people and seeing how we can help them out.
And what do you think is like the main reason why people, use you guys? What's that big pain point, that big problem? They're like, all right, yeah, let's
2 points. One is collecting the feedback, and 2 is the auto scheduler that we have. We really believe we have something that's unique in its offering. It's not just a single appointment confirmation digital solution. It's a full automated scheduler. So you literally grab your entire list of homes, you click one button, the system will handle everything from reschedules, declines, and acceptance with an optimized route.
So that's what it's scheduling. It's scheduling all the people that are going to be seeing the home.
Yeah, for the home buyer. So regardless of what platform you're on, our system will have sophisticated logic to understand who to contact, make that contact point, reach out, understanding if they can book the appointment right away, and leverage the communications all automated on the back end.
AI. Is there AI to be able to chat? Because you got to reach out to the agents who are the listing agents to go book the appointments for it. Yep. And how are you communicating with them?
We're using text message systems right now, but we have this is where the proprietary logic comes in to make sure we're optimizing against all of the factors that we'd want to optimize against. So,
have you guys raised any money?
Self-funded principally, a few safe agreements. But effectively we're bootstrapping this now, but we're at the point now where I think to really take it and scale this business and really refine the user experience and the user interface and take it to market, which our goal is to really be there in early 2020 to be selling this outbound rather than just grabbing those early users who are going to help us refine it.
So you're looking to raise a seed?
Yeah, we'd love to get a seed round in.
And what's like the big message to investors? Like, why should they invest? Like, what's the big vision?
That big vision is we are going to be the end-to-end solution that is going to really revolutionize the way people think about real estate agents. Instead of them thinking of themselves as salespeople, it's their trusted advisors. We're going to showcase that value. They're going to earn their 3%. It's no longer going to be a discussion of discount brokerage, full service discount brokerage, because we're going to provide them the tools that truly separate them from the marketplace. Couple that with excellent tools, excellent solutions that are going to help them, and we're going to dominate this market.
Now, you've been in a few startup markets. I've seen you've worked and been in Austin, Texas, San Diego, LA, Orange County, and there's a lot of tech startups that are like, where should we be? And we have our quality of life we think about. We have the need to raise money. Sure. We have the need to find talent. How would you describe the differences in those cities as a tech co-founder?
Interesting. So my early career in the early 2000s and around 2010, I spent my time in Orange County and on the west side of LA, where there's still sort of Silicon Beach. I think there's probably a little bit more love for that seed stage Series A in those areas. But there is plenty of capital in Austin. You just have to get traction. There's a lot of talent in and around Central Texas. Everyone from Dallas to San Antonio and Houston, that whole triangle. There's a lot of schools, a lot of good smart kids coming out of it. So finding talent there is not impossible. There's a lot of talent. San Diego is an interesting space. I'd worked with a colleague on an advertising technology solution, spent a lot of time in ad tech prior. I think San Diego is still trying to figure themselves out. It always feels like a suburb of Orange County, which feels like a suburb of Los Angeles. Yeah. So you're kind of two people removed. But I find Austin to be great, especially at the point I am in my career. I'm not a 28-year-old single guy, crammed 3 guys in a room. Yeah. I have a family and a mortgage, so it's a little bit more challenging getting a startup off the ground. But myself and my co-founder are committed to this, and we're making it work. And
Is Austin cheaper than San Diego?
Yes, although it's getting more expensive, as anyone would know. But the great thing is that there's so much new building going on, you can kind of keep moving further out. The challenge with Austin really is the geography of getting to certain locations. If you live on one side of town or the other, it's not easy to get across town because of the river and the man-made, Lake Travis kind of cuts through. You only have several routes to get through, and they're usually backed up. Yeah. It's funny because the traffic on some of the streets are worse than Los Angeles because there's just not enough streets.
That's so funny. Kelowna is like this city in Canada with a lake, and it was never a big city. It's still not a big city. It's 150,000 people, but there's a huge tech boom going in there because one of the dragons from Dragon's Den, which is like the Canadian version of Shark Tank, he sold his company to Disney and made like $350 million, was bootstrapped, so he made like personally hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sure.
And he built like an innovation center in Kelowna because he's like, I want my hometown to start becoming a tech hub. And there's this one bridge, so there's 2 sides of town, one bridge, and it's just, everyone's like, it's a nightmare to get over it.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about, and how do you advise, founders to be thinking about like quality of life versus being the place to grow the company? Is that a conflict? Is it something where it's like, hey, in certain times of your life, be in the place to go build a company, and in other times of your life, now you can start to think about quality of life more?
Yeah, I think for right now, it's if you're passionate and you want to see your company succeed. I mean, I think myself and my co-founders all recognize, we're prepared to do what it takes to have a company succeed, our company succeed. And so if that means sacrificing, try not to sacrifice too much for my kids. As any parent wants to make sure that they have the right balance. But I guess it helps me, it takes the burden off of some of those lessons of not being able to get your kids everything. But really, Austin does provide a good quality of life for family structure, so we can live in a nice neighborhood. It's not like I have to live in a not so great part of town. I think the tools that we have now. I just read a story about a gentleman who became a billionaire with 700 employees that were all remote. I'm not saying that that's the standard, but I have developers that are overseas. I have a CTO that's on one side of town. I have a couple developers on the other. We meet relatively regularly, but we are just constantly communicating through the Slack channels and the other components that we can constantly interact with what's going on in the product to keep it moving. But it's really, you've got to be committed to making the product go as far as you can with your own dollars. Just do as much as you can, and that's going to really help.
Now, people throw around the word, like they say, I am committed, and then other people look at them and they're like, based on what you're doing, you're not committed. Now, you've been in the game for a long time and been with companies and stuff like that. So when you say, like, I am committed, what do you think of the things that you do and other people who are truly committed do that the wannabe entrepreneurs and founders who say they're committed, you're like, no, because of this, you're not?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And maybe within myself, there were other startups that I thought I was committed into, and this was early in my career. Oh yeah, I want to do it, but I was struggling with that life commitment balance. And when you start choosing, I'm going to enjoy life at the moment more than you're choosing what needs to occur with the company. Right now, I'm very clear on what we need to do. And there's a laundry list that goes on. And I wake up thinking about them. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about them. I go to bed thinking about them. And sometimes I have to learn how to put the phone down and take that time for myself to create that structure. So I'm sane, but I know I'm committed from that type of, not only the thought process, but the decisions I make, the money I spend. Do I spend it over here? Do I spend it over there? And being as thoughtful as I can. Will I make the right decision every time? No. That's part of the learning. But knowing that I'm not just, that's fine, I'll go do that. And not being committed to, does this impact my business? How does this impact my business? That shows a level of commitment coupled with the time. When you're always available to answer those questions for any of your team members, especially as a leader of a company, you should be there all the time to answer whatever questions they have. It's challenging when they're all over the world. I get the emails at 2 a.m. I have the alert, wake me up. If you got a question, let's get this resolved. And I think other people, they may say it, but they're spending too much time. Well, I'm going to go talk to, I think mentors are great, but just talking to mentors to just talk to mentors, that's not moving my product forward. That's just talking to mentors about what they think you should do. And some of them have good advice and some of the advice is not great, but you can get distracted by those things. And it doesn't mean that they're not necessarily committed, but you're not committed on the right things. And so maybe you haven't learned that aspect of it. And maybe that's really the root of the question. Everyone thinks they're committed, but you're not committed on doing. You're committed, but you're doing the wrong things, which makes it appear that you're not committed.
Yeah.
Right?
It's prioritization.
Yeah, and understanding what's important.
All right, so I got some final lightning round questions so people can kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Yep.
What is your favorite city in the U.S.?
Chicago.
What is your favorite business book?
My favorite, Getting From Good to Great.
Who are some of the idols and role models that you look up to and admire in business?
People that I admire and look up to in business. Gosh, I've been influenced by a lot of different people. One person that I looked up to a lot is a gentleman named Steve Krenzer, the Chief Operating Officer at Groupon. He was my first boss when I kind of came out of business school and worked in the corporate world and started in ad tech. So Steve was important to me. I guess more public figures that people may know, be more aware of. I actually have a lot of respect for what Mark Cuban has been able to do, and I do, watch him on Shark Tank. I appreciate his understanding and what he goes through when he talks to some of the entrepreneurs on there. So I have a lot of empathy, and I'm a more formally trained kind of business leader. I'm not just a guy who learned to cut his teeth on the streets. I did go back to school and get my MBA, but that's not the only way. The right way, it's you got to go learn it, and you got to do that as well. But those are two people that I find.
Cool. What are some technologies or apps that you personally could not live without?
Right now, Slack, for sure. Any of the workflow productivity tools that I use to be able to communicate with my team, I absolutely have to live with. The other stuff.
What else do you use apart from Slack?
Let me think about this here. So I'm on Slack, I'm on GitHub and Stand-Uply to kind of make sure I see what's going on. Get Kraken as part of that kind of tool chest right now. Eventually we'll be, I think, more structured and start to get into some of the Jira products that we're going to need. But for right now, those are kind of the key ones right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies and interests?
Really, my interests are my kids. I know it's an easy thing to say, but I have a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a little boy that's about to turn 1 tomorrow. So I'm missing him for his first, and it's my last one. They were all surprises, all pleasant surprises, and unexpected timing.
Yeah.
But watching them go through their maturing and seeing them grow up with technology that I didn't have. I joke around with my daughter, and she's like, well, what was it like for you to play video games? I'm like, it sure as heck wasn't an iPad running around. I'm like, okay, and I go pull out an old Nintendo Classic. I go, it's kind of like this, but this was the game, and she actually finds enjoyment with it. So just getting to relive life through their experiences is kind of fun, and seeing if they gravitate towards it or not, but giving them the freedom to kind of explore life is fun.
Cool. How can people get in touch with you?
So you can reach me by going to homeways.io and filling out the form, or tom@homeways.io. You can reach me directly, and it's Homeways with a Y and a Z.
Cool. How'd you come up with the
name? Just a lot of kind of brainstorming and coffee and then some beer and just saying, okay, this seems kind of right, and we just liked Homeways.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for today's show. As always, subscribe to the YouTube show, click that button, and click the notifications so you can always get updated when the new interview comes out, because there's lots of great leaders that you will get to know so you can be great in real estate. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.